Hello, this is Ronan from Recording Bootcamp, and welcome back to another episode of Ask Ronan Turbo Monday. So I'm going to try and get through your questions, as many as I can, in 5 minutes. So I'm just shooting this episode on my laptop. I'm actually down mixing a record in Long Beach at a really cool studio. It's kind of tiny, but everything in it is cool and stuff you would want to use. And I'm mixing a record, really cool project called Psychic Temple. A guy named Chris Schlarb is sort of the mastermind behind that. And there's a whole bunch of incredible musicians on the project, but the one that's most exciting to me is actually Mike Watt from the Minutemen. But a lot of amazing musicians on this. But more important than all of that, let's get to your questions. And clock starts now. So Tim, who actually came to one of my boot camps, says, when we're in the boot camp, we spend a lot of time doing A/B comparisons of things. And whenever myself or Diego were comparing things, we were very conscious about levels between the two things. If we want to compare things, we're trying to level match. And that is super important because we're always going to get more excited about the louder things. So when I'm comparing gear, different mixing, processing, I'm trying really hard to level match. And when we're comparing gear, like if we've recorded 2 different microphones or something like that, you really want to just find some tool that will let you do those comparisons. And I'm a Pro Tools user, and I actually can do that just with the Gain Audio Suite plugin. And I'm sure if you're on Cakewalk or Logic or Cubase, they all have something like this. So select the audio you've recorded, analyze it, select the next chunk, analyze it, and compare the two. And generally, if I'm comparing mic pre's, mics, EQs, I'm looking at RMS levels. Remember, those are the kind of fancy ones that sorry, I'm messing up, but that's kind of the fancy way to say the average levels. And those are going to give you a more accurate picture because, there could be just one spike up and that will really throw off the peak levels. So just find something that will allow you to analyze RMS or average levels. And you could even use some kind of meter, any kind of metering in your DAW that shows RMS levels. But I like to use the Audio Suite one where I can really grab 2 things and analyze a whole big chunk. So Angelo writes, many engineers try to isolate as much as possible the sound of the cymbals from the rest of the drums by using high-pass filters or pointing the mics away from the shells. Others tend to capture the overall picture. And basically the short is he's saying he has much better luck doing the first one because the second one is too roomy, too ambient, too distant. Well, that being the case, my approach is I really like the second one. For me, the overheads are really my drum set mics that are probably kick drum light. And anybody who's been through drum recording training with me knows that I'm a big advocate of getting an amazing drum sound in just 3 or 4 mics, and then having all the other mics where we can just sort of supplement or boost things for creative reasons. So if they're too ambient, real simple, lower them. Also, I tend to like cardioid microphones or unidirectional microphones. So unidirectional or cardioid mics pointed right down at the drum set, either in a space pair or an XY configuration, and I can use just height of those to get the amount of ambience I want. One thing also, if it's too ambient, you might want to look for ways to just tighten up the space around the drums. That could be like hanging packing blankets around the drums, or bringing in some gobos, or putting the drums in a different spot. But I recommend you spend some time with that. That approach of two overheads or even 1 overhead and a kick drum mic, maybe a snare mic, and focus on getting a killer drum sound with just those. And because that's going to help you learn a lot about preparing the drums correctly and miking and things like that. And if you go and want to start adding tom mics and cymbal mics and room mics and all of that, which is totally fair and cool, you will be starting from an even better place and at least have run through that approach to decide whether that first or that second approach is the one for you. And we're almost good, we've got time for at least one more. So that one's too complicated. So but Steve writes, and this is a great question that I love. He says, at what point in the mixing process do you generally add reverb and delay to the overall relevant tracks and instruments? I like to get about maybe 75-80% of the way into my mix before I start adding any of that stuff. And the reason for that is, a lot of times I don't put a lot of that in, other times I do. But when you start adding reverbs and delays and all those kinds of things, what reverbs and delays do is they smear things, they mask things, they obscure articulation. So if we start piling on delays and reverbs really early on in the mix, it's going to be much more difficult for us to hear what are the structural problems in our mix. So if the guitar is maybe fighting with the keyboards, or the kick drum is getting obscured by the bass drum, I want sort of boom, bright, harsh white light like this on my mix, so I can really tell what's going on between the instruments, so I can fix those structural problems in terms of level, panning, subtractive EQ, compression, gating, transient designers, all that kind of stuff. So I want my mix to be sounding really awesome, bone dry. And then, almost done. So if the mix sounds really killer, bone dry, it's actually gonna stop. It's actually going to hold up much, much better once we start putting on reverbs and delays and choruses and flangers and all that kind of stuff. So that is it. Again, check out this website below and you can get some information on this awesome Psychic Temple record projects that I'm involved with here. And also make sure you check out recordingbootcamp.com. For all the fun stuff we do there. I'm doing a mixing boot camp next weekend, and we have one spot left if you're interested. And of course, check out the subscription button, subscribe here, so you can get all the fun videos and stuff we do here. And I always love it when you share this with your friends. All right, that is it. Have fun, stay focused on the music, and keep sending me questions here so I can keep doing these episodes, and I'll be right back with you next Monday.